Did you know that sites like Rivals or 24/7 will lower a recruit's ranking if they commit to a Big 12 school like Texas Tech or BYU? And that's not legal. Here's how we put a stop to it. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. TJ Pittenger of College Football Addiction will join the program, and we'll talk Big 12 being tampered with in the transfer portal rankings. And that leads to a lower ranking for your preseason slot in the AP poll. And when you have a lower ranking, you have lower viewership. You have lower viewership, you get canned. They give up on you. ESPN doesn't like you, Fox doesn't like you, and now the conference dies. It's a great big domino effect that all starts with, oh, your players suck now. They must not be very good. They committed to you, UCF, you, Houston, you, BYU. This is bad. Then ESPN. They've now taken over the whole process with the college football playoff and how many teams will make it. And 24 teams could very well be the number they land on. And finally, broken record. Good news for the day. The BYU Cougars actually out west outpaced everybody else in the country in viewership this year. Blew it out of the water. Absolutely incredible year for BYU. Here's why that helps the Big 12. And the Big 12 needed that good news today. If you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job. TJ, Big 12 is being tampered with. Yeah, so I think the most prominent example of this will come from BYU, and they're kind of the first fan base to catch on what was happening. And from there, it spread quickly to Texas Tech and Kansas State and across the entire Big 12 conference where, yeah, TJ, there's nothing this league can do, and they're just going to be hurt by examples like this from BYU or Felix Ojo from Texas Tech or Lincoln Cure at Kansas State, guys who have committed, even Ryder Lyons, not a transfer, but a 5-star quarterback to go to BYU. They said, oh, no, he's going on mission. Oh, no, he's committed to BYU. Well, surely he's not actually a 5-star quarterback and the #1 quarterback in the country, right? Let's just go ahead and take a seat on that. That's where these adjustments have been felt the most. And I mentioned Lincoln Cure. 5-star guy, class of 2025, who he goes to Kansas State over Oregon and Texas A&M at the time. This was a 5-star kid who moved to a 4-star kid and was on Star Watch, as they call it. Keyshawn Henderson, Houston, #1 quarterback in the class of 2026. Committed to Houston May of 2024 and was dropped to a 4-star. Like, what's crazy is they're not just doing it to BYU. They're not just doing it to Texas Tech. They're doing it to every team in the Big 12 when they get a guy who's a reputable player, a 4 or 5-star player in the transfer portal or the high school ranks. Immediately, you see him drop in how these Rivals 24/7 ESPN recruit rankings view them. It doesn't matter who you are, what school you're going to, how good the Big 12 school. If you're going to a Big 12 program out of the transfer portal, they're going to drop you. This is another example of that from the BYU side specifically. And again, that's kind of the fan base that called them out. Like a Kyler Casper, who moves from Oregon to BYU. He was a 93 rated recruit. 93. Commits to BYU, is dropped to 86th by 24/7. Like, why? What changed yesterday to today that isn't just him deciding to go to BYU? That's the only thing that you could pinpoint. The only difference is he's committed to BYU. What that does, TJ, because somebody's listening right now saying, okay, why does it matter, right? Yeah. It's just a silly little arbitrary recruiting ranking. Do you know, TJ, how they build strength of schedule in college football?
Yeah, this is the point. I mean, you're exactly right. This is what I was going to say and what I was going to talk about. Now, with the caveat of actual impact for the player on the field, 0, right? The player gets to, at any school, whether it's artificially deflated or artificially inflated because he goes to Georgia, or like, you got to go perform. XYZ player that gets ranked higher or lower, doesn't matter. You go perform, you get to the next level. The NFL doesn't care about what your star ranking was. Okay, so caveat aside. It matters exactly for what you just said. We have had a discussion about how poor the SEC just did in bowl season. We've talked about it for 3 weeks in a row now. I'm shocked we're not doing it again because it is one of the more fun subjects we get to talk about. But why are the SEC teams propped up? Well, when you look at the talent on their rosters, largely it is better than everyone else is. At the end of the day, talent doesn't win you games. Ask Penn State, ask Clemson, ask LSU, ask Florida State the last two. Like, talent alone doesn't win you games. And so, however, when you get to the end of the year bias that we all see with the committee and the playoff rankings and everything else, I feel like you were about to make this whole point, but nice alley-oop on this, D-Wade to LeBron.
Good.
When you get to that at the end of the year, it does matter for that. It does matter when BYU gets left out of the playoff by one spot and Alabama gets in. That is a big deal because we automatically look at Alabama's roster and we automatically look at BYU's roster and say, well, I know they both had blemishes. I know they both had issues. Strength of schedule here, losing to conference champions here, blah, 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 blah. I get that. We'll go with the more talented team. We'll go with the better team, with the team we think we will win on paper, right? Because that's where games are won, not what happens on the field. And so, yes, it absolutely does matter. Again, for that one single player that gets dropped from a 93 to an 86, doesn't matter for him. He can go prove everybody wrong. Yeah. Tom Brady was not an elite recruit, and you're not an elite kid coming out of college. Like, you can go do whatever you want. That doesn't matter, right? What matters is the total team ranking and the way that those teams are viewed. And BYU and Texas Tech and Houston and all these teams you just named, from Henderson to every other recruit that's mentioned, it will impact them once we get to late November and early December, when the playoff committee ultimately probably leaves somebody out that shouldn't be left out.
TJ, think about this. If BYU had 15 five-star players, if Baylor had 17 five-star players, if UCF had 42 four-star players, a la LSU, you're ranked preseason top 15.
Sure.
You're ranked top. I'm seeing On3 release their preseason poll, and Florida's
top 25. Virginia Tech is top because they pulled in a lot of Penn State transfers. Listen, I like Matt Campbell. I know he's no longer in the conference. Penn State's 14th. What are we, and listen, I'm not here to give Miami credit. Miami's down at like 9th.
Yeah.
And, Indiana's at 5th. And they're who's at the top again? Ohio State, Georgia, Texas. It's the same thing every year.
Who does Georgia? Georgia's losing most of its roster and has not done well in the transfer portal. Alabama has not done well in the transfer portal. They get to be top 20. Why? Talent composite. Oh, they're so much more talented.
Well, they're talented, so they're going to be good. We give a lot of credit to the talent. We don't look at how bad the coaching is in some of these leagues where the SEC just replaced half its coaches. And so, I don't know, man.
DJ, think about this too. If you've got a kid who's got offers from UT Martin, North Dakota, and Samford, the second Georgia calls him, diamond in the rough. Oh my gosh, nobody else is on this guy. He went from a 2-star to a 4-star overnight because Georgia wants him. You're not giving the benefit of the doubt, and I don't love to prop up the ACC, but you're not giving that benefit of the doubt to an SMU team that made the college football playoff last year. You're not giving the benefit of the doubt to a really solid Miami team even right now. It looks like they are getting slided in this, and they are national championship contenders. So that it doesn't. You at home are probably saying, well, it doesn't matter, play the game on the field. We don't get to. You actually don't get invited to the game on the field.
It's politics now. Right? Winning does matter, right? You win all your games, you're going to get in. I get it, right? BYU could have gone 13-0 and they'd have been fine. The problem is that Alabama didn't have to go 13-0 and Oklahoma didn't have to go 13-0. And a lot of these teams, Ohio State, I understand they're one. I'm not saying Ohio State should have been left out. Right. But some teams get that benefit of the doubt and others don't. And that's the whole argument, is that, you can go prove it on the field. Very rarely, how many teams went undefeated this year? Well, just one. And, we're recording this on Monday before the championship happens, and it'll come in on Tuesday. So we already know if Indiana went through. But very rarely do teams go undefeated. Nobody went undefeated last year. And if Miami wins tonight, nobody will have gone undefeated this year. And so benefit of the doubt doesn't exist for the Big 12. And it all starts here, right? It's you've seen the domino meme where it's a huge domino here, but then a little one that the guy starts to push. It's the fact that BYU's team isn't as talented. Texas Tech's team is not as talented because we lower the rankings for guys that commit to Big 12 programs, ACC programs to some extent too, and prop up the guys that Kirby offers, or the guys that DeBoer offers, or the guy that Sark offers, or Ryan Day offers. And, you're set up to fail from the beginning. And it's that little domino, right? How much does it matter? Well, by the time he gets to the big domino on December 3rd, it matters a whole lot. It's
the same kid too, like Keyshawn Henderson.
Right.
The same body.
Yeah,
same attributes. Nothing happened. But in the span of 30 minutes, he goes from 5-star to 4-star, middle of the pack. You're like, what? How? Well, he didn't commit to the big school. Well, it shouldn't work that way. And that's how this last year, Missouri had the 20th best strength of schedule in the country preseason. They played 8 home games. 0 teams that made the college football playoff. Like, how do you get away with in a world where every conference has at least 1 team in the playoff? The SEC has like 5. How did Missouri play 0 playoff teams, have 8 home games, and have the 20th best strength of schedule in the country? Only because of this. Because on paper, all the SEC is filled with 4 and 5 stars. That's just it's too much.
A&M, the other side of that. A&M played 0 SEC playoff teams.
Crazy, man.
Right? I know they did beat Notre Dame. I don't want to take that away from them. Notre Dame wasn't a playoff team. Now Notre Dame, my opinion is they should have been in and they would have competed better than a lot of these SEC teams, but they played 0 playoff teams.
Hey, today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is exactly where I go when it comes to college football season and buying college football tickets. And now the college football is over. Basketball time. Game Time's where I go for college basketball. Tailgates, packed stadiums, being right in the middle of it all, the energy, the band, the moment you remember forever, that big 3-pointer to tie the game. No frustrating login queues. No frustrating logins or prices jumping at checkout. Game Time gives the advantage back to the fans. The experiences come to you in just a few taps. Choose, say, the Baylor Bears, and find great seats, including a view from your seat before you buy and a zone deal. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, you save even more. Football tickets, basketball tickets starting as low as $25 in the college ranks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app. Do it today. That's Game Time.
ESPN. And we've always been told, Drake, that they don't control the college football playoff. They're just a broadcast partner, right? Like they don't control anything. They've got no reason to be financially motivated for any of this. I know you're going to make the Apple comparison here in a second, having an iPhone. Listen, I do too. I get it. But ESPN's not, they're not the man behind the curtain pulling the levers in the Wizard of Oz, are they?
Yeah, TJ, it's the money. Once again, the money. Look, I'll do it quickly. I wasn't going to today, but I'll do it for you. The Apple comparison. ESPN owns stock in Apple. And so why would you ever buy a Nokia? ESPN owns their Apple is the SEC. So they're buying stock in the SEC. They want them to succeed. They don't really care about the Big 12. They don't really care about the Big 10. They don't care about the ACC near as much. Yeah, they bought a couple shares of Kyocera, but they want Apple to succeed ultimately because that's where their $1 billion investment is. So what has happened right now is the College Football Playoff Board Chair, Mark Keenum, notes that a couple days ago was not a deadline day. The deadline is coming up. It's Friday this week for a format change to be implemented by next year for the College Football Playoff. Then Ross Dellinger tweets and says, ESPN officials will not grant another extension of the deadline, CFP Director Rich Clark says. And you realize, whoa, wait a second. The actual puppet master here, the people who are building the timeline, the people who are allowing or disallowing these things, those people are ESPN. Those 4 letters are determining the future of the sport, college football. Now, I don't know if you knew this, TJ, but Major League Baseball has been dying the last few years. Who's held their media rights? ESPN. The NBA has been dying the last few years. Viewership's been terrible. Who holds their media rights? ESPN. You look at what is happening in the NHL, a non-factor. An afterthought, ESPN. The second they get their hands on this stuff, it started to fall apart. It's failed to reach the levels it was once on, or it's just collapsed altogether. Now, Fox is not having this issue. TNT is building when it comes to sports, and they're only getting better in the collegiate game. The CW is now on the scene with some major college football games like Florida State and Clemson. But ESPN is flailing because they were overinvested. Their insider trading ate them up from the inside, and they don't know what to do with it now. Brian Driscoll tweets, there's so much wrong with this. ESPN telling college football what to do is a big reason why college football is so messed up right now. And 100%, we were told ESPN has no influence on this. ESPN is independent of the entire process. But then you just told me ESPN can grant or deny college football playoff committee requests and what they want to do and what their timeline is and how they move, that's all dictated by those 4 letters. That is a major problem. There's not a singular entity. There's not a person that's trying to call the shots and do their best. Like, here's the deal. With Charlie Baker, who's pretty incompetent at the top of the NCAA. Hey, look, at least he's at the top of the NCAA. At least we have somebody to blame. I can point and laugh at that guy. I can point and laugh at Jim Phillips of the ACC. There is someone who, at the end of the day, this decision falls on them. ESPN is safe from that. They're marked safe of that. They get to just be this mysterious entity in the sky that we all look at and say, oh, that was a really bad decision. But there's not any accountability for what they are doing. And what they are doing is ruining college football as we know it. And it is a dark spot that we're headed. I like football. I like watching the national championship game. It's fun. I'll keep watching college football. But ESPN doesn't have the goal of saving the sport. They have the goal of making more money to the detriment of the sport.
I know nobody tunes in for this, but the second that ESPN got the rights for international soccer, I was like, oh no, what are we doing? Which I watch every Saturday and Sunday morning. And so again, I just know where it's going. Yeah, the NBA product is terrible. Like when the NBA happens to be on like NBC or Peacock, I love it. When they used to be on TNT, I mean, Shaq and those guys, Barkley and those guys were the best around. When Fox gets some of the Saturday games in the summer, great broadcasts. All of the ESPN stuff, absolute trash. Like it is, today's the national championship. We're recording this on a Monday. I am wondering what to watch. It's a holiday. Yeah. There's not a lot on. And so I flip on, let's watch Get Up, right? Like, let's see what they're talking about with the national championship. It's terrible. The coverage is terrible. Now, game day itself, like I know people hate Kirk or they hate this. Like game day's fine. Like I like Saban on there and stuff. The 3 hours before the game is typically fine, right? Like you might have your opinions.
Chris Fowler. Chris Fowler's got a good hey, here he goes. Like, I'm in. That's cool.
Like you can get into it. Like because they actually talk. I mean, those guys mostly actually talk about the games, right? Like it's not all the drama here, there, wherever. I know they always have like side stories and stuff that make you want to cry in the middle of it. Rinaldi went off to Fox, but whoever his replacement is. So like that stuff's fine. Like game coverage, the way that they manipulate the sport, the way that their coverage is for other sports, it just is so disingenuous. Well, and it really is.
TJ, when Kirk Herbstreit, like the blowout, when Indiana was blowing out Alabama, he was like, hey, just want to let you guys know, like, blowouts happen. Like this is just part of the game. But then when BYU or Texas Tech are being blown out, it's always like, man, you got to really question who deserved to be in this field and whether or not should we have left out Notre Dame. You're like, what are we doing here?
Last year, Indiana lost to Notre Dame by 10. And I'll give you, that game was incredibly competitive. Indiana scored 2 touchdowns late to make it look a little bit better than it was. Kirk Herbstreit then called the Ohio State-Tennessee game the very next night, or two nights later, the worst blowout of last year's playoffs, like the most uncompetitive game possible in last year's playoff. In fact, it was a worse blowout than Oregon JMU was this year, and it rivaled the Tulane Oklahoma or Ole Miss game that we saw. Horrible blowout that happened to an SEC team. It was also the closest spread. It was the game that was supposed to be the closest. That's why it was the last game of the first round. And that's why Kirk and Chris were calling it, because we thought it would be the best game. After calling that game, they signal back to the ESPN studios, and Linda Cohn asks him, what's your biggest takeaway from this? And he went on a rant about how Indiana shouldn't have been in the playoffs because I know they had a good record, but they just didn't belong. Indiana lost to Notre Dame, the eventual runner-up in our sport, by 10 points. And I know that game wasn't super exciting for 3 quarters. I get that. But he had just finished watching an SEC team get their butt absolutely torn to shreds. And his biggest takeaway was, hey, that close game we got in the first round? That 10-point game that we got last night? That's the one that I'm going to rail on a little bit because of the narrative. And the idea that ESPN wasn't controlling the college football playoff and wasn't controlling what they do and the teams they get in. Let's not pretend like that doesn't happen. I'll go 2023 on this. Let's not pretend that Alabama, Michigan didn't get them better ratings than Florida State without a quarterback versus Michigan would have gotten them. It's always been very clear that ESPN has been in control of this thing. It's always been very clear that this is not a merit-based playoff. It is a made-for-TV product, invitational. And that's fine. It's not fine for those that love the sport. That's fine. I think we all accept that. I just get tired of the, no, that's not what it is. Like, no, guys, like we're not playing these games. I'm glad at least today it came out like, Yeah, you're the one that has all the levers. You're the guy behind the curtain that's pulling the strings. We understand that you're in control of this. Let's just admit it, and we'll all be happier with our lives. Yeah,
I mean, once we accept that this is the entity that's destroying college football, maybe we can work, to fix it. But that's they have the money, and when they have the money, if I had unlimited cash, if I had 3 wishes from the genie, that I could wish away what ESPN's doing to college football. But no one with the money is willing to step in and do the right thing. Because you think like, oh, Nick Saban's like Santa Claus. He's a college football Santa Claus. The old guy who everybody loves. You're like, oh, he's funny and prickly and, he's the greatest coach of all time. Even he's getting paid by these people. We all have the same agency. Everybody, I myself am CAA. Those 3 letters are very important in sports, and that's got a lot of deep roots in the SEC. And so those guys are with ESPN. I mean, it all makes sense. There's this kind of inner circle mafia of college football, and they want the SEC and ESPN to succeed. And right now, it's hurting what we get, what we see, what the product is year in and year out.
Only one team in the West had better television numbers this year than BYU. That team not propped up by ESPN, but the Oregon Ducks, who played a lot of big games and took on a lot of big matchups in the Big Ten. Their numbers rivaled by BYU's, and then they crush everybody else. So BYU, the team of the West.
Yep, the numbers are in, and the Big 12 actually performed super, super well here. Surprising numbers, by the way. Utah way below the mark that I thought they would be. Utah in viewership, that is. And BYU right there with Oregon, contending for the number 1 spot in the West when it comes to TV viewership. And what we know is it's very important to have TV viewership at the forefront of how you play your football games. Like, whoa, no, wins don't actually matter as much as TV viewership. Like, no, that doesn't mean it. Well, yeah, this year USC had a worse season than Utah, but they had 30.37 million people tune into their games. Utah had 14.79. And as silly as it is, we give you money based on how many TV viewers you bring in. We give you cash. You get to stay alive in college football if people are watching you. It's a brand game at this point. It's a game of whether or not you have staying power based on who has their eyeballs on you. And a lot of times when that comes, somebody posed me, I'm about to cook. Somebody gave me the question.
Cook on, Greg, cook on.
They said, the Big 12, nobody watches the Big 12. TV viewership numbers for the Big 12 are so much lower than anybody else. It must mean the SEC is the only fan base. Those are the only places that care. Did you know when we put say, number 7 Indiana versus number 9 Illinois on TV, millions and millions of people watch that? TJ, historically, people don't care about the brands Illinois or Indiana in college football. You know what they care about? Those numbers.
Ratings, yeah.
They love when that little number is next to your name. College Game Day loves Fox Big Noon Kickoff. They love when that little number is next to your name. These rankings that lean toward the SEC or lean toward the Big Ten, they dictate a lot of what we watch when it comes to college football. Do I care about watching Washington play UCLA? No, I don't. But I do care a lot more when UCLA is number 4 in the country and Washington is number 7. You put those numbers, and now it has a more seismic effect on the teams that I care about that sit around the top 10. Now, if I'm a Texas Tech fan, a BYU fan, a Utah fan, I care about that game because I'm rooting for someone to win or lose and affect how the college football playoff standings shake out. The reason the Big 12 gets less viewership is not because, the fan bases just don't care as much. It's because they're so pushed down the rankings. They don't get the opportunity to play these higher ranked games because the AP poll is swayed toward the best conference in college football, the SEC, which is not actually the best conference in college football. It's certainly the Big 10. So Oregon being at 1 makes a lot of sense. BYU being at 2, they had 37.56 million viewers this year in football. Again, USC 30.37. Washington, BYU had 13 million more than Washington. 17 million more than Colorado. They almost doubled up. They doubled up officially UCLA and almost tripled up Utah. That is crazy. In a year where the Big 12 needed a lot of viewership, where the Big 12 needed to shine, Texas Tech and BYU were the 2 schools that gave it to you. Colorado's still up there as well, beating out Utah by 6 million viewers. That's massive for this conference. It gives the Big 12 something to look forward to next year. Having numbers like this give you, hey, this is your basis for continuing to succeed and grow fans and grow numbers and grow TV revenue moving forward. It's a really great base, really good for BYU football, really good for the Big 12 conference. And puzzling for Utah, but solid for those of us who love college football.
Well, the BYU fans that tune in won't hate hearing that part of it.
Okay.
You mentioned the numbers next to the name. I mean, you're so spot on there. I mean, look at the way that let's keep it close to home. Look at the way that Florida State's rankings looked at the beginning of the year versus later in the year. Florida State is a top. I mean, look, I'll be somewhat conservative by saying, to me, Florida State has a top 10 to 15 brand in the sport, like just logo recognition, brand, fan base size, things like that, right? I'm not talking about how good or bad of a program they are. Top 10 to 15 brand, easily, right? I think I'd have them ranked like right around 13th because I've done this before. That's a big brand that people want to watch. When they play Alabama, and that's a ranked team, people want to watch. That game did bonkers numbers. On a Friday night, the Florida State-Virginia game, because Florida State was ranked 10th in the country, huge numbers for a Friday night, right? Didn't really compare to the Alabama game that was a standalone game at 3:30 on ABC. However, still massive numbers. Florida State loses that game. They play Miami the next week. You've got a ranked-on-ranked matchup. Florida State and Miami, two, again, top 15 brands in the sport. One loss combined between them. Huge matchup. Even Florida State coming off the loss. Bonkers numbers for that game. Florida State loses that one. They lose to Pitt. They lose a few more. They're on the kind of a tailspin. Guess what people stopped doing? They stopped watching. Even though Florida State is a top brand in the sport, people stopped watching them. Now, inverse. Look at Indiana. Beginning of the year. Indiana was ranked, no doubt. They were a good team. Look at their beginning of the year numbers. Not very good, because people were like, they're still going to follow. Like, what's going to happen? Like, I'm removing the Big 12 from this. Like, I'm not even talking about, the church with BYU or the portal intrigue with Texas Tech. No, we'll just remove the Big 12. Indiana, late in the year, everybody wanted to watch them. Why? The number next to their name kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. That is how we watch football. Even if you don't want to watch that, that's what these networks force down your throat.
Yeah.
That's what they make you watch. You got to go to ESPN 7 to find a Florida State Clemson game in November because both teams are under 500. But you flip on your TV and you see a ranked Indiana playing Penn State, even though Penn State didn't have a great year. Everyone watched that comeback because it was big noon kickoff. That's what they make you watch. And so it's almost like it's double stacked. Not only in our minds do we see, Kansas State, Iowa State, not a good game. Don't want to watch it. Kansas State, Iowa State. I know that happened in Dublin, so maybe I'm cheating there. But Kansas State, Iowa State, a ranked matchup, a 13 versus 15. Well, this is a college football playoff eliminator. I got to watch it. Whether you care about those programs or not, you tune in. And not only does that the way our minds work with the way that we watch games, ESPN makes you watch it because they put it at 3:30 on ESPN or ABC. You don't have to go to an app to find it. You don't have to go searching, 7 dials down the station to find it on your radio. Those are the games you have to watch because that's what gets put on TV. And so now, that's good, right? If your team's winning and they're ranked and things like that. And goes back to another conversation we had. Who is always ranked, Drake? Who is always ranked? No matter who they play, no matter how well they look, they're always ranked if they're in the SEC, right? There are, of the 25 teams ranked, there are at any given time 10 or 11 teams ranked. And so they always are on TV. It's always a ranked matchup. Very rarely, we should go through and do this. How many non-ranked SEC matchups, where at least one team was ranked, how many of them happened this year? Like, I understand if Auburn played Mississippi State, neither team was ranked.
Yeah.
But I would say there were more ranked matchups, not ranked on ranked, but just one of the two teams being ranked in the SEC than there weren't this year.
And that creates viewership. Right?
Yeah. When you have that, you artificially inflate your viewership. Now, those fans, listen, we never really get on the SEC fans. They can be quirky. I get that. They are loyal fans. Like, Tennessee fans have packed that 100,000 person stadium out for years. It doesn't matter how good they are, how bad they are. Nebraska fans the same way. Like, I get it, right? There are good fans all over. And so I'm not getting on the fans. South Carolina fans packed out that stadium at Williams-Brice this year, despite having nothing to cheer for. So I'm not getting on the fans so much, but your average viewer, your casual viewer that's not a fan of that team watches because of the rankings next to their name. And they watch because that's what the ABC game happens to be, or the ESPN 8 p.m. game happens to be. And they're double stacking the deck because they're not putting the ACC many times. They're not putting the Big 12 many times. Obviously, ESPN's never put the Big 10 on because Fox has the contract, but they're not putting those games on many times. They are putting on the games that make them the most money. And ultimately, that's the SEC. They artificially inflate their rankings. They artificially inflate their recruiting rankings so that they can do that later. And then they artificially inflate their wallets because, well, not even artificially. They inflate their wallets because the viewership at the end of the day helps them. So all that said, a massive credit to BYU to be able to break through a lot of this as their fan base continues to become more emboldened, more impassionate, more intriguing because of the size of the church and the size of the support and the size of everything else that goes on. I think they'll continue to climb here. Not
to mention, they've done a terrible job, the national networks, ESPN, of covering Indiana. If this was Georgia, like I remember vividly Georgia.
Just keep it in the conference. Yeah. Michigan, USC, any of these teams.
I remember Georgia, Alabama, that national championship. It was wall to wall for 10 days. You turn on ESPN, that's all it was. This morning I was watching ESPN, I guess yesterday morning, depending on when you're listening to this, watching ESPN and Steelers coaching update. Steelers coaching update with the national championships tonight. Yeah. Indiana's maybe the best college football team of all time. I would argue LSU 2019 was the best pro-ready. The best had the best potential, pro potential of any college football team ever. Like they were an incredible pro level football team. Indiana's a great college football team, right? They're like one of those Wiley Gonzaga basketball teams. Like there may not be a draft pick in the bunch. They're really good for what they are in college because they're all 23, 24, 25 years old. It's what Indiana was this season. And ESPN's like, well, wonder who the Steelers are going to hire. Like, no, you would not do that if Alabama was playing against Ohio State or one of those legacy matchups, Michigan versus LSU. You wouldn't see that, but it's exactly what we get now. It's again, we're furthering the death of college football by making it a TV viewership game. And if you don't play along, if you don't have good numbers, you wither away. Yeah. Drake, thanks for hanging out today, buddy. I appreciate you. Yeah. Anytime, TJ.